Invasion's edge. They came without warning. The first sign was a disturbance in the atmosphere over the Pacific Ocean. Satellite imagery showed strange ripples forming in the clouds, like stones dropped in a still pond. Within hours, similar patterns appeared over every major ocean on Earth. Colonel Sarah Reeves was overseeing routine operations at North American Aerospace Defense Command when the readings started going haywire. Radar systems detected massive objects materializing in low Earth orbit, objects that hadn't been there moments before. "Status report," she barked, watching as her team scrambled to make sense of the data flooding their screens. "Colonel, we're tracking 17 unknown objects that just appeared. Largest is approximately 4 kilometers in length. They're positioning themselves over major population centers." Sarah's blood ran cold. "Get me the president." Across the globe, people looked up to see enormous obsidian structures hanging in the sky. The vessels resembled massive crystalline formations, jagged, asymmetrical, with surfaces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. They hovered silently, making no attempt at communication. In Beijing, Dr. Maya Chen was giving a lecture on quantum communication when every electronic device in the lecture hall suddenly went dead. The lights flickered and died. Through the windows, she could see a massive shadow darkening the city. "Everyone stay calm," she said, though her own heart was racing. As one of the world's leading experts in experimental physics, she recognized an impossibility when she saw one. Those ships shouldn't exist, at least not according to the laws of physics as humanity understood them. Within 24 hours of the ship's arrival, global communication networks began to fail. Internet connections dropped. Satellite feeds scrambled. Radio transmissions became unreliable, filled with strange harmonics that made human speech unintelligible. In Washington, D.C., an emergency session of the National Security Council convened in a hardened bunker beneath the White House. "What do they want?" President Ellis demanded. "Have they made any attempts to communicate?" "No, sir," General Hammond replied. "They're just watching and interfering with our communications," the Secretary of Defense added. "It's a prelude to invasion. We need to strike first." President Ellis frowned. "With what? We don't even know if our weapons would scratch their paint." The decision was made for them when, 36 hours after their arrival, the aliens struck. It wasn't weapons fire or bombs. Instead, pencil-thin beams of blue-white light shot down from the vessels, touching down at seemingly random locations around the globe. Wherever the beams made contact, strange transformations began. The ground fractured, revealing crystalline growths that spread outward like ice forming on a pond. The air around these sites filled with luminescent particles. Humanity responded the only way it knew how. Fighter jets scrambled worldwide, launching missiles at the alien vessels. Artillery fired from the ground. Nuclear missiles were prepped for launch. Nothing worked. The missiles disintegrated before reaching their targets. Fighter jets lost power and plummeted from the sky when they got too close. The alien vessels remained untouched, continuing their mysterious work. Dr. Maya Chen was called to an emergency scientific summit in Geneva, one of the few major cities not yet in the shadow of an alien ship. Leading minds from around the world gathered to analyze the limited data they had collected. "The beams aren't weapons," Maya observed, studying the footage. "They're extraction tools." "Extracting what?" Dr. Nikolai Petrov from Russia asked. "I don't know yet, but look at the pattern." Maya had mapped the beam sites and discovered they corresponded to locations with unusual geomagnetic properties. The aliens weren't attacking cities or military installations. They were targeting specific points on Earth's geomagnetic grid. "They're mining something," she concluded. "Something we can't even detect." As the scientific community worked to understand the invasion, military forces worldwide continued their futile attacks. 1 week after the aliens' arrival, an unprecedented coalition formed. Traditional enemies set aside their differences in the face of extinction. For the first time in human history, a truly global response was coordinated, Operation Guardian Shield launched on the 8th day. A synchronized attack using every available weapon system targeted a single alien vessel over Mumbai. For a moment, it seemed to work. The vessel's surface rippled under the barrage, its crystalline structure fluctuating. Then came the response. A pulse of energy radiated outward from the ship, disabling every electronic device within a 300-mile radius. Mumbai and the surrounding region plunged into darkness. When power was finally restored days later, they discovered that all water within the affected area had been transmuted into a gelatinous substance that evaporated within hours. Millions died of dehydration before relief efforts could reach them. The message was clear. Resistance would be met with consequences. 2 weeks into the invasion, Maya Chen made a breakthrough. Working with a small team in an underground facility in the Swiss Alps, she detected unusual quantum fluctuations emanating from the alien crystalline growths. "They're creating quantum bridges," she explained to the Emergency Scientific Council. "These aren't conventional mining operations. They're extracting quantum potential." "In English, please," General Hammond requested via a secure line. "They're harvesting probability," Maya said. "Earth is unusually rich in quantum potential, the capacity for multiple outcomes to exist simultaneously before resolving into a single reality. It's what makes our planet special. These aliens are draining that potential. They're harming the very fabric of what makes Earth unique." The implications were staggering. If Maya was right, the aliens weren't interested in water, minerals, or even biological life. They were harvesting something far more fundamental, the universe's capacity for randomness and possibility that seemed to concentrate around Earth. Maya spent sleepless nights analyzing data, looking for patterns, searching for any weakness in the seemingly invincible invaders. 3 weeks into the invasion, she found something. The alien vessels were perfectly synchronized in their harvesting operations, suggesting a hive mind or central coordination. But during human attacks, particularly large-scale ones, subtle disruptions appeared in this synchronization, millisecond delays in their responses. "They're not omnipotent," Maya explained to President Ellis and the Joint Military Command. "They're powerful, but they're struggling to process the chaos of human resistance. Our unpredictability confuses them." "How does that help us?" the President asked. Maya took a deep breath. "I have a theory. These beings perceive reality differently than we do. They operate on perfect quantum coherence, everything in sync, everything predictable. But humans are chaos engines. Our minds generate quantum noise. That's what they're harvesting, but it's also what they can't fully comprehend." "What are you suggesting, Doctor?" "Operation Wildcard," Maya replied. "We need to attack them with pure human chaos. Not with weapons, but with the one thing they can't predict or process: human creativity and randomness." The plan was met with skepticism, but as conventional options dwindled and alien harvesting accelerated, desperation set in. 1 month after the invasion began, with crystalline formations covering nearly 2% of Earth's surface, Operation Wildcard received approval. Maya's team jury-rigged quantum amplifiers designed to broadcast human brain activity directly at the alien vessels. Rather than using soldiers, they recruited artists, musicians, improvisational performers, and even children, people whose minds naturally generated the most unpredictable thought patterns. "It sounds insane," General Hammond admitted. "That's exactly the point," Maya replied, connecting electrodes to her own temples. "Sanity is predictable. We need insanity now." As the equipment powered up and the first test began, Maya closed her eyes and let her mind wander freely. Above, the alien vessel over Geneva trembled slightly, its surface rippling like the skin of a startled animal. For the first time since the invasion began, humanity had made contact. Humanity's GAMBite. Operation Wildcard expanded rapidly. Quantum amplification stations were established at strategic locations worldwide, each staffed with chaos generators, humans selected for their particularly unpredictable neural patterns. artists, musicians, mathematicians solving unsolvable problems, children engaged in imaginative play, all connected to equipment that broadcast their brain activity directly at the alien vessels. The effect was subtle at first. The alien harvesting beams flickered occasionally. The crystalline growths slowed their expansion. The vessels themselves seemed to vibrate with an unstable frequency. 3 days into Operation Wildcard, the aliens responded. Rather than direct attacks, they began emitting low-frequency pulses that induced drowsiness, reduced creativity, and promoted linear thinking in humans within range. "They're trying to make us boring," Dr. Maya Chen explained during an emergency briefing. "They want to reduce the quantum noise our minds generate." Colonel Sarah Reeves, now coordinating global military support for Wildcard, suggested a countermeasure. "We rotate our chaos generators every 30 minutes. Don't let anyone stay exposed long enough for the dampening effect to take hold." The battle entered a new phase, a war of minds rather than weapons. For every alien attempt to suppress human creativity, humanity found a workaround. When the aliens targeted amplification stations, operations moved underground. When they attempted to isolate cities, guerrilla teams established new broadcast points. Maya worked tirelessly to understand why Earth had been targeted. Analyzing the quantum signatures of the alien vessels, she discovered something astonishing. The aliens weren't just harvesting Earth's quantum potential, they were threatened by it. Earth sits at a unique nexus point in space-time, she explained to President Ellis during a secure video conference. The mathematical probability of life evolving here was infinitesimally small, yet it happened. Our planet generates quantum possibilities at a rate unheard of elsewhere in the galaxy. "So we're special," Ellis said. "That doesn't explain why they're attacking us." "It does," Maya countered. "These beings exist in a state of perfect quantum coherence. They value predictability above all else. Earth is a chaos node in their orderly universe, a cancer in their perfect system. That's why they're here. Not just to harvest our quantum potential, but to neutralize us." Understanding the aliens' motivation changed the strategy. Operation Wildcard shifted from defense to offense. Instead of merely disrupting the harvesting operations, Maya proposed broadcasting human chaos directly into the alien vessels themselves. The risk was enormous. If the aliens perceived this as an existential threat, they might abandon their methodical harvesting and resort to outright destruction. But as the crystalline formations covered more of Earth's surface and resources dwindled, the global coalition agreed to take the chance. On the 42nd day of the invasion, Operation Wildcard went offensive. Synchronized quantum amplifiers worldwide focused on a single alien vessel over Nairobi. At Maya's signal, thousands of connected humans, from renowned physicists to kindergarten finger painters, projected their unfiltered consciousness at the target. The effect was immediate and dramatic. The Nairobi vessel's surface began to fracture, leaking brilliant light from within. Its harvesting beams stuttered and died. For 17 minutes, the vessel writhed in the sky like a wounded animal. Then it fled, shooting upward at impossible speed until it vanished from Earth's atmosphere. Humanity had scored its first victory. The aliens retaliated within hours. 3 vessels combined their efforts to generate a massive electromagnetic pulse over Europe, destroying electronics across the continent and killing thousands of connected chaos generators. The message was clear: escalation would be met with escalation. Yet even in defeat, Maya found hope. Analysis of the electromagnetic pulse revealed patterns, predictable sequences that suggested the aliens weren't as chaotic or adaptable as humans. "They're using templates," she explained to the coalition leadership. "Their responses are powerful but programmed. They can't improvise like we can." Colonel Reeves, who had lost an eye in the European pulse attack, leaned forward. "So we hit them with something they can't have a template for." Operation Broken Mirror launched 1 week later. Rather than attacking the aliens directly, chaos generators worked with mathematicians to project paradoxes, self-contradicting thought experiments and logical impossibilities that would force any coherent system to crash when trying to resolve them. The aliens' response was dramatic. Vessels began to move erratically, their harvesting beams firing at random intervals. The crystalline formations stopped growing, and in some locations began to retract. "They're glitching," Maya said, watching the live feeds. "Their coherent systems can't process paradoxical input." The turning point came on day 60. A 17-year-old chaos generator named Diego Suarez, working from a facility in Argentina, connected to the amplifier and began solving a physics problem in an entirely incorrect yet internally consistent way. His mathematical framework was completely wrong by conventional standards, yet somehow functional within its own logic. When his thought patterns were broadcast to the alien vessels, 6 of them simultaneously experienced catastrophic failures. Their crystalline structures shattered, raining harmless dust over the oceans below before the vessels themselves imploded, leaving nothing behind. "What happened?" President Ellis demanded. Maya reviewed the data in astonishment. Diego created a complete alternative physics, a system that shouldn't work but does. The aliens tried to process it, to find the flaw, but couldn't. Their entire conceptual framework collapsed. Within the next 72 hours, the coalition replicated Diego's approach with other chaos generators. Philosophers created ethical systems with circular premises. Composers wrote music that broke every rule of harmony yet remained beautiful. Children designed impossible buildings that nonetheless seemed like they should stand. Each broadcast crashed more alien systems. By day 70, only the largest vessel remained, hovering over the Pacific Ocean. Maya led a final coordinated broadcast, a global effort involving millions of connected minds, each contributing their unique form of creative chaos. The last vessel didn't flee or shatter. Instead, it transformed, its crystalline structure rearranging into a configuration that somehow felt less threatening. Then, for the first time, the aliens communicated, not with words or images, but with pure conceptual transfer directly into the minds of the connected humans. The message was complex, but clear. "We misunderstood. You are not a disease in the ordered cosmos. You are its evolutionary step. We yield to superior adaptation." The vessel departed, leaving behind a single crystalline structure floating above the Pacific. When research teams reached it, they discovered it contained star charts, technology blueprints, and quantum equations beyond human understanding, gifts or reparations from the defeated invaders. In the aftermath, Maya Chen stood on a beach in Hawaii, watching the sunset where the alien vessel had been. Colonel Reeves joined her uniform now bearing the insignia of the newly formed Cosmic Defense Initiative. "They'll be back, you know," Reeves said. "Not those particular aliens, but others. Word will spread about the crazy monkeys who broke physics with their minds." Maya nodded. "Yes, but we'll be ready. Not with weapons, but with this." She tapped her temple. "Humanity's greatest defense is that we don't make sense. We contradict ourselves. We believe impossible things. We hope when there's no logical reason to hope." "You make us sound irrational," Reeves said with a small smile. "We are," Maya agreed. "And that's our superpower in a rational universe." News had already reached them about the changes worldwide. The crystalline formations left behind by the aliens had transformed, integrating with Earth's ecosystems in ways that enhanced rather than harmed them. Global quantum potential had increased rather than diminished. Earth had not only survived the invasion, it had evolved. 1 month after the last alien departed, the first human quantum ship launched, using principles reverse-engineered from the alien technology, but modified with distinctly human innovations. Its mission: to make contact with other civilizations, not as conquerors or chaos bringers, but as ambassadors of possibility. Humanity had entered the galactic stage, not as victims or warriors, but as something far more terrifying to an orderly universe, innovators who didn't know what couldn't be done. The quantum noise of Earth spread outward among the stars, not as a challenge, but as an invitation. In the vastness of an ordered cosmos, humanity's gift of beautiful chaos had found its purpose.